Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you for tuning in today's episodes of CAIR on Air. My name is Huzaifa Shabazz, and I'm the senior researcher at CAIR. And a special thank you to our listeners on Facebook and American Muslim 360. On August 21st, a bulldozer was used in an Indian Independence Day parade in Edison and Woodbridge, New Jersey. In India, the bulldozer has become a symbol of far-right Hindu nationalism. In addition to that, images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and another Indian famous leader for promoting Hindu nationalist Hindutva ideology and anti-Muslim bigotry were on the bulldozer. This display caused significant backlash, with multiple advocacy groups calling on local elected officials to rebuke the event and for the organizers to apologize for the display. Among these advocacy groups were our very own New Jersey chapter and the Indian American Muslim Council. And so to help us unpack all of this, I'd like to invite and welcome CAIR New Jersey's operations coordinator, Dylan Terpstra, and Minaj Khan from the Indian American Muslim Council. Dylan and Minaj, thank you all for being here.
Well, assalamu alaikum, and thank you for bringing us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Let's just jump right into it. So Dylan, I want to just start with you. I see that you've been covering this issue locally. Could you just, for our audience who doesn't know, who don't know what happened, can you give us some insight into the incident and what the response has been on the ground from local officials, and how did organizers respond?
Sure. So on Sunday, August 14th, was the India Independence Day parade in Edison and Woodbridge, New Jersey. The parade started in Edison, goes into Woodbridge, and ends there. It was organized by the Indian Business Association. It's been an annual parade that they've done. But clearly, this wasn't a parade for all Indian Americans. It was only for certain Indian Americans. And it espoused a certain political ideology that's being imported from overseas, and that is Hindutva, right? Mm-hmm. Hindu supremacist ideology. So at the very front of the parade, they have this bulldozer. And if that's not clear enough, they then have portraits of Modi and Yogi Adityanath, who are Hindutva leaders in India, and they are responsible for the bulldozing of homes. So if the bulldozer isn't clear, it really should be after you see their faces. And then to top it off, in Hindi, it says Baba Ka Bulldozer, Daddy Bulldozer, his nickname of Yogi's nickname, Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. Right. And then not only that, the Grand Marshal of the parade is just a political Hindutva speaker from overseas. He's a party speaker for BJP, for these people. So this parade was political in nature. It was not about India's independence. It was not about all the diversity and culture and history of India. It was about this specific ideology and a message to Indian minorities in America that we're here, we can do what we want, we don't care, and you can't do anything about it.
Thank you, Dylan, for giving us that overview. I just want to follow up on that. And do you know who the specific organizers were? And I think you did mention about a speaker that is has links to Hindu nationalist groups, but could you give us some details around that, who the organizers were, and if they have any sort of links to the RSS or Hindu nationalist groups in India?
Sure. So the primary organizer was the Indian Business Association. This is made up of a group of different Indian American business owners, all of which are Hindu. None of them are Sikh, Christian, Muslim, etc. And I think Brother Minhaj could speak more on their specific ties. But okay. I would want to point out, because you did ask about what happened locally in the aftermath. It took a long time in relative terms for any elected official to do anything about it. Now, the first was the mayor of Woodbridge, who had a private meeting with us. Subsequently, we had a public meeting with Mayor Joshi of Edison. But it took too long in all of our opinions. We were making calls, we were making emails, we were putting in requests to meet. This is a very important issue. Nobody understood what the bulldozer meant. Nobody seemed to care originally, but we got these meetings. But it did take some time.
Right. So with that said, I want to bring it to you, Brother Minaj, and maybe we can start, maybe if you have some background information about the Indian Business Association, you can mention that, and then I can ask you about the influence that pro-Hindutva actors have, here in the United States. So maybe we can start with the Indian Business Association, and then you can go to the sort of the influence that they hold.
Yeah, before we go there, let me just take a quick moment. I think it's August 14th when this incident happened, not on August 21st, as you mentioned. With that, let me just take a background of this one. The India's Independence Day celebration day, where all the Indian people come together, which includes everybody. I mean, like Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikh, and every Dalits. In fact, my Dalit friends, we all come together to celebrate this, day of freedom from the British colonial rule. That's the background of this day. Obviously, because 15th was a working day, perhaps they decided to do it on the 14th of August, and they took out this rally where we all participate. This has been organized for a couple of years now, and we all have been there. I've been there in the past couple of times attending them and be a part of this celebration, which celebrates as a day where all of us come together regardless of our differences in opinion. And as Dylan said, this was perhaps more shocking for all of us when we saw that a bulldozer was used as a mascot for this parade. And unfortunately, that was something that we were never expecting, because we were all thinking as to what, I wasn't personally there, but when we looked at the picture, and there were a lot of my friends there, including Hindus, by the way, and we were shocked. Some of them were like, they left, I believe, and they called me and they said, Minaj, when we saw that, we left. So having said that, this whole thing was organized by Indian Business Association, and they have been conducting this for the last couple of years. And perhaps this year, somehow, somewhere, there was a deviation. This was in no way, perhaps, a celebration of India's Independence Day, I would say. I would rather say it was the launch of some hate ideology in our backyard, in America, right in Edison and Woodbridge Township. And these two towns are quite known for the Indian community. We have the largest Indian community concentrated in this area. And to do such a thing perhaps require a really deviated mindset. We are working with different agencies and trying to figure out why IBA decided to do it. And as we all were thinking, we know they did organize this before, and this never happened. And one of the very conspicuous thing on this whole float thing was in the use of the saffron color. I mean, if you look at Indian flag, it's about green, white, and saffron all together. But this time we felt it was more saffron. And unfortunately, if you go back into the history of Hindutva, you will always find some synonymity with the color here. So this saffron color somehow resonates with this Hindutva theology. So if you look at the picture of the images and the photos, and that was, for whatever reason, has been done. So that's something that all of us in the town are like wondering why such a hate symbol was used, why such a divisive figure. Besides the hate symbol, the Sambit Patra, the Grand Marshal, and one of the mayor rightly said, like, we are used to seeing some Bollywood actors, which we all love to see, right? This is the time when we get to meet some of our known favorite actors. Instead of them, there was one actress, I believe, not much known, but Sambit Patra was there, who's considered to be a very divisive figure. Comes from, the office. He is the spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, that is currently in rule back there. And unfortunately, if you look at his videos, his speeches, they are quite contrary to the secular fabric of India. That's not something that he adhered to, and is very pro-Hindutva. And that's where I think it all began. And as soon as we realized this is not right, CAIR, New Jersey, myself from IMC, American Muslim for Democracy, we all came together. We thought how we can bring this all together and talk to the right authorities. So,
thank you for that, Brother Minaj. And just to add to that, can you also talk about, we're talking about Hindu national, the presence of such supporting groups, pro-Hindutva actors, you can say, if they are in New Jersey, if you can touch on that, and just their nationwide sort of presence, that they have in the United States.
Just for my audience who doesn't know about this BJP, and I know we have a wide range of audience here, it goes back almost about 100 years, you can say roughly, when Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, it's called RSS, it's a 97-year-old organization. In some sense, you can call it as an old Nazi party still alive in India, you can say. They are the BJP is a political, you can say, a branch of that organization. So a lot of the BJP members are part of the RSS, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, and they're, in some sense, I can call them as an Hindu nationalist party. Virtually anti-Muslim, you can say, in majority of sense. But it also, the Christian brothers and the Dalits have also taken a brunt for being for not being in the other side. So, and unfortunately, the overseas friends of BJP, which was also a part of the parade, you can see them walking with the banners there. They were a part of a parade. And as Dylan rightly said, it was more of a political launch of a party rather in this side of the world from a foreign country, more than the celebration of India's Independence Day, right? And we take an exception for that, especially the Muslims, the Christians, and Dalits. We do take an exceptions in those regard, and I think we need to understand what RSS manifesto is. If I can provide some information about it offline, you can share it with your audience. Their manifesto is something that people should be aware of, and looking at that and having lived this RSS, ideology back in India when we were there, has to be capped actually. If you look at it, and this is only those Hindutva folks we are talking about here. Let's make a clear distinction. They are very good Hindus. We have friends with. We live side by side, not just in America, but also back home. Our parents live together. So they're those secular-minded, the people who follow the Gandhian philosophy and Nehruvian philosophy, and people who come with a very pluralistic mind. We all live together. But things have started change since in early 2000, you can say, in some sense, when the Gujarat program happened. But more vigorously after Mr. Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power. We have gone through tremendous amount of hate that has been publicly demonstrated, and very unfortunately, I was surprised when the Prime Minister himself declares, like, hey, well, who we are looking at. You can identify them by their appearances. This is coming from a Prime Minister of a country who is supposed to be a leader of the entire nation. So those kind of characterization of a certain community actually has played a lot into this politics actually. And then there was a recent law, which I believe CAIR were also aware of it, the CAANRC, where the sizable majority of Muslims. In fact, for your audience who don't know, there are 14% of population of India is Muslim, and they are considered to be the second largest Muslim population in the world living in India, by the way, after Indonesia, just so you know.
Yeah.
So,
thank you for that.
Raj, it's not right. You mentioned RSS in India, and that you've dealt with this ideology in the past, but now not only is there RSS, there's HSS here, right, in New Jersey as well.
Correct, Dylan. There's HSS, the Hindu Seva Sangh. There is HAF as well. I heard there's Hindu America Foundation, and there's WHC, which is World Hindu Council. These are organizations that are directly affiliated with RSS, and they work here in this side of the world. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Brother Manoj. And Dylan, I want to bring this to you in terms of, on the positive, what sorts of things would you like to see in the future when dealing with these issues from elected officials, lawmakers, community leaders? What sort of action do you want to see from them?
Well, we need, first of all, right, and this is fundamental, we need quicker response. We need quicker response, right? When you have such a large group of community members and residents, not just outside folks, but people who live in your community reaching out to you for a meeting with you and you're their executive or their elected official, we need a quicker response, right? Maybe this was slower because it's a bulldozer and they assumed, this isn't an act of hate or something, right? Because I see the comments online from average Americans. They're thinking, this is being twisted. But even still, that's not an excuse, right? You have all these community members reaching out to you. So first and foremost, we need a quicker response. But in the future too, now that this has been called out, we've gotten a lot of attention that this is wrong. And that this is a hate incident. This is exactly what it is, right? Nothing less than that. Now we need to prevent it. We need to talk about accountability measures. We need to talk about going forward.
Right. And there was actually an apology issued, well, somewhat of an apology issued today by the Indian Business Association. And it's funny because I think a couple days ago on a local news station in New Jersey, I believe the chairman of the IBA, he said, "Why should I apologize?" So I'm not sure if you saw the apology, but if you did, do you think it's sufficient, or is it insufficient? What are your thoughts on that? And if not, what more do you want to see from IBA?
You want me to take that, Dylan?
You can, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, right. So Dylan is right. It took a little bit of a time for the authorities to come into action, and I just really want to first of all also thank the authorities. By the way, whoever, the federal authorities met with us, including a lot of agencies that were really concerned about it. So I really want to thank them from this channel. The FBI, the Department of Justice, and a lot of people came and met the leadership in the town. And perhaps that was a bit of a relief for all of us, I would say, and it was assurances that really made us, feel good that there are people who are with us, who stand with us, and they really, discourage and denounce this philosophy of bringing a bulldozer or such a hate symbol to the parade. Actually, what do we think about the apology? It's a step in the right direction to begin with. Not really the entire episode, because a written apology perhaps is just a beginning to begin with. What goes in after that? What's the action they are taking in place? What are the steps they are taking to make sure that this would not happen again, and perhaps be moving forward, coming to the Muslim community to reach out and say, we apologize and we want to be there with you if there's, and they did say that they sincerely apologize, and I'm assuming that sincerity will continue to be demonstrated throughout not just the parade time, but throughout the year, throughout our lives here. Because look, our children live here. One of the major concern that the parents have raised was about this trickling into some form of bias against the children, because our children go to the same school as our Indian compatriots, right? So we don't want that to be trickling into the classrooms, actually. So we got assurances from the authorities, and one name I really want to talk about is the mayor of Woodbridge Township. I immensely want to thank John McCormick, who has worked hard, and I salute the mayor for doing what he has done. I know he had his own ordeal to go through, but he has played a very tremendous role in bringing us all together, and he's still trying. Actually, there's a lot of things he discussed and he's presenting, so we are working our way through. But it's a step in the right direction, I would say, though it is not the entire thing we were looking for.
Right.
Yeah, I would add to that, that, just to be clear, we are not applauding the IBA, right? They're the ones who caused this, right?
Absolutely.
And even when in their letter they say, unfortunately, there was a bulldozer, it's like, come on, you put the bulldozer there, right? You put it there. But we do acknowledge that this apology, which just a few days ago it seemed like was never going to happen, it seemed like there was no level of understanding. It is a step in the right direction. And not only is it just a step, but it's necessary for us to get to the rest of the steps, right? In all the accountability. And Brother Minhaj spoke about Mayor McCormick, right? And Mayor McCormick has expressed desire to establish an advisory committee with the objective to ensure that the IBA's stated commitment is maintained. So this effort meets the need for accountability, going beyond just the acknowledgement where we're at now, although it is necessary.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we have a question actually, and it's actually one of the closing questions I had as well. So I'll just combine ours. So a member from the audience is asking how can they be an ally to the Muslim community, and then I want to add to that, just for ordinary folks who don't know much about this issue, they want to get involved. How can they do that? What role can CAIR New Jersey and IMC play? So that's the last closing question, and I can throw it out to you, both of you.
I can take that, Dylan, if you wanna, or should I?
Go ahead, and we can go to
Okay,
Dylan
no
first.
problem. Well, let me first say this. Remember, I would like to say that first of all, try to distinguish between Hinduism and Hindutva. Okay, that's the first step you should do.
Absolutely.
Because I come from India. I know we all respected and lived in that place, and we have our own cultural, and we all celebrated it as Indians actually. But this Hindutva actually needs to be identified from the Hindus first to begin with. The second thing you can do is this Hindutva, I mean, if you really ask me, I would definitely consider it as something very anti-Semitic, perhaps, something in the line of fascism. That if you go and read the Indian, I'm not sure how much my audience are educated about it. Don't read the news coming out of India. Read about it, what's going on, what's happening. We all thought it's going to be a India a shining example, but it turned out to be something farce away from it. So first understand who you're dealing with. And America, we chose to come to this place, and we want our children to establish ourselves and be a part of this growing community of America. This is my mother homeland now. This is where we want to make sure everything comes together as one melting pot. That's what America is known for. America has to be given what it deserves, not something, some kind of a garbage from India that happens where you're using a symbol of terrorism and a terror and bring it to our lands here on our back streets. When you see such a thing, I would say be an ally, report to the authorities. I have had extensive meetings with the FBI and everybody, and they have assured me that there are a lot of laws in place here to handle such kind of nonsense. If you see those, perhaps report to your local police stations or the law enforcement agencies and talk about these bias, because the first thing starts when you speak up against it. I know a lot of people don't want to. There are people who are scared, for whatever reasons, because of the families. But I would suggest speak up, be there, stand up for what is wrong, and always join hands with your community. Not everybody is bad. Everybody is all here for a good reasons. We want to contribute to this nation to begin with. Our children are going to be a part of it. We're going to be living here forever, actually. There's no way of going back. We're all citizens. And we feel like it's our duty to speak up. So if you want to be an ally, think about, speaking up against it, inform the agencies when you feel it is right.
Great.
And then always invite them to your places. As I said, I have a lot of good Hindu friends that I hang out with, and I appreciate all of them. Their culture is their culture. I accept it as it is.
Right.
But let's just alienate this Hindutva and this fascists from these good people, actually. And I wanted to there were a few people who came in, spoke in the council meeting, who were talking about this, as a symbol of freedom or justice and law. And I'm like, I'm going to make a call to these people from this platform right here. Stop that garbage here. Don't bring it. We don't deserve that. You are a good man, be a good man. You're a good woman, be a good woman. Be a good citizen of this country. This country doesn't need what's happening back in India. Please, that's my request for those who came and spoke in favor of this. A lot of people who did speak, and I think we need to reach out to them. That's all I can say.
Dylan, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think what Brother Minhaj said is all very sensible, and I would echo that. First being that your Hindu neighbor has nothing necessarily to do with this unless they are like an avid, organized subscriber to Hindutva. But if they're not, then they have nothing to do with it, right? So that's first and foremost. Then you can engage with organizations like CAIR New Jersey, Indian American Muslim Council, our partners like American Muslims for Democracy. You can engage with us and support us and give us more legitimacy and more credibility, even more when dealing with these local elected officials. But as being an ally too, at the meetings, in the public council meetings, we had non-Muslims who were there for different issues speak in our favor after hearing all of this. And it's important for someone who's not Indian or someone who's not even Muslim to really speak on this issue and to say, hey, this is hate. This is not welcome, right? This is equivalent to anti-Semitism. we don't want this. And that is super important because frequently with this issue, different news and media outlets or even elected officials try to make this an India-Pakistan issue or a Hindu-Muslim issue when it's not. It's not. It's not like there's an equal playing ground or it's like one versus the other. It's a supremacist ideology. It's a hate ideology that we're dealing with here. Right. And so it's super important for an ally just to speak out against it and show their mayor or whomever that, hey, I'm not necessarily Muslim, but this is still hate.
Right. Well, on that note, thank you, Dylan and Brother Minaj, for coming on to CAIR on Air, and it was a really fruitful conversation, and we look forward to hosting you again soon.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Dylan. Thanks, Zaifa.
Thank you. Awesome. And thank you all for tuning in today's episode of CAIR on Air. We run every Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And until then, we'll see you all next week. Assalamu alaikum.